It's the Beth Cahill Show. And now, here's Beth.
Hey, good morning, Seattle, and welcome back to another week of the Beth Cahill Show. Before I get going, I want to invite you to email me, though, if you have any opinions, if you have disagreements with me, or for any future shows that you have interest in me covering. Please email me. I would love to hear your thoughts on the program so far. My email is beth@thebethcahillshow.com. Cahill is spelled Cahill, so beth@thebethcahillshow.com. So last week we were discussing current city council members and their incumbents that are seeking re-election, and I ran out of time before I could go much into discussing District 1, which is West Seattle. There we have Phil Tavel challenging Lisa Herbold. I think Phil Tavel is an interesting choice, and by interesting, I think a good choice. Tavel sees himself as more of a centrist in the current political spectrum. He's definitely more conservative when it comes to spending as well, so that's always a good thing. His experiences could bring a unique perspective to city council. Unique in that he was once a public defender, so he could use the criminal justice system to actually help the people that are suffering in our streets. Law enforcement has been vilified in the city by current council members for a very long time. So having Tavel use that criminal justice system to help get people off the streets and ultimately into the services that they need, it's a welcomed idea. If the root of the problem is still not being addressed, sometimes it's better to have the someone that knows the system, therefore is better equipped at understanding the changes that need to be made and make that system, again, work for the people that it's supposed to represent. So what I liked about Tavel was that he wasn't afraid to say that we should be enforcing our current laws. This should not be a controversial statement, but in the current climate, sometimes it feels like saying something like that it's a controversial statement. So to have a candidate in a city like Seattle come out and say that we need to enforce our laws, I think it's a step in the right direction. So a couple of updates on topics that we've also been discussing in the previous weeks, and I'm going to start with this. I am never going to be someone that holds back when discussing the failing policies of this city or our elected officials. But I am also someone who is really, really rooting for Seattle and the comeback story that this city deserves. So with that said, if there's positive movement on behalf of the city, I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it. I want to go into it. So Mayor Jenny Durkin announced last week that she and some other King County officials have 4 pilot programs that they have worked on that are designed to start to address the issues of repeat offenders in this city. So the plan focuses on the repeat offenders that are continually cycling in and out of our jail that we haven't seemed to have many answers on. Before we go into what these 4 pilot programs are, though, I want to circle back on a report that came out last February. This report took 100 of Seattle's most repeat offenders and studied their behavior. I can't go into the entire report just for the sake of time, but I did take key pieces out to share. It is available online, though, if you're interested in reading it. I will say it's a fascinating but also frightening read. It's titled System Failure. Again, go online, Google it. It's a fascinating report to read. So what it included, though, was recent bookings into jail and how many times these same individuals had multiple offenses, these same 100 individuals that were studied. So what they found is quite alarming. There were some repeat offenders who had up to 112 bookings over a multi-year span. Some of them 53 in a single year. I mean, can you imagine this? Some people literally being booked 53 different times in a year, and they're still out walking the streets. These people were released with no consequences and basically no regard for public safety that they were being released back into. In most cases, these people would commit the same crimes, and not only commit the same crimes, they would actually go back into the same neighborhoods and sometimes even the same city block that they were committing the other crimes in. So the same neighborhoods and the same people were being victimized over and over and over again by the same people. The system in keeping these people in jail for the crimes that they committed, it was an utter failure. It still is an utter failure, which is why we're going to talk about the 4 pilot programs that are being introduced. But, I mean, they weren't doing any time for the crimes that they were committing. And a lot of the crimes that you saw on this report that came out was theft. Theft was a big one. We've discussed theft before. If you have a substance abuse problem and you don't have a job, you will resort to theft 9 times out of 10. You have to find a way to pay for your habit. And the study shows just that. It backs that up completely. The report was fascinating in regards to the information that officers were able to gather when they would make these arrests or be questioning these individuals. The daily theft to pay for their substance abuse problem, what they found out from these people, had become a full-time job for them. Their substance abuse or their drug habit cost anywhere from $70 to $150 a day. So they knew that that's the amount of money that they needed to come up with per day to continue to feed their habit. So stealing, it became a way of life. It was their job. That was their full-time job. So again, you're going to see Seattle, we discussed earlier, is basically at the top of the list for petty crime. Theft goes into that. So we were number 2, I want to say. Yeah, number 2 behind San Francisco in property crime. So that kind of all feeds into that same narrative. So I'm going to bring this back to what we've discussed. It's a 3-tiered problem, and lumping it together, it's a mistake. It's a mistake that we continue to make over and over and over again, and it is costing our city dearly. There is a homeless problem. There is a substance abuse problem, and there is a mental health crisis, and all 3 of them are not mutually exclusive. If you were to take just this report alone, let's pretend we have no other information to back up these claims, and we're solely going to go off of this report. It confirms that they aren't all one and the same. When they discuss the group of offenders that were suffering from, say, homelessness or substance abuse, and those were the same people that were stealing in order to pay for their drugs, those people didn't necessarily have severe mental health issues. It's important to make that distinction because treating all 3 of these issues as if they have the same solutions is why we're in this mess to begin with. We have to treat them separately where we can and where it makes sense to. That is not to say that mental health is not a huge problem, because it is, but it's a mistake to lump it together with every individual. 40% of the sampled 100 offenders suffered from mental health issues. Only 40%. Not that that's not a high number. It definitely is, but 40% of them. And in the court documents, 20% of that 40 posed a massive public safety risk. The 20% had a long history of unprovoked attacks on the public, and they posed a serious threat to responding police officers as well. These police officers will oftentimes get assaulted while trying to make the arrest. These people posed a risk. And where this became a big problem, or it still is a big problem, is keeping these repeat offenders off the streets because of the leniency in the policies that we have here. So all of these 100 people, they knew how to manipulate our system. They knew that if they faked an injury or if they swallowed the drugs that they had on them when they were picked up, that there was a process that officers had to follow. And it did not start with jail, but rather a visit to Harborview. The process goes something like this. They commit a crime, they fake an injury, they get driven to the hospital, and then released. Seattle already has a shortage in police officers, so the idea that 1 or 2 officers can sit at Harborview while they're being checked out and unavailable to take other calls or to respond to other calls in the city just isn't a reality. So the police officer is forced to release them at the hospital. So then what happens? Well, they're released into the public again, and it all starts over again the next day. So something had to be done, which is what brings me back to Mayor Jenny Durkin and the pilot programs that are being proposed. So the first proposal is enhanced probation, which basically means if the offender is willing to accept treatment, he or she will get less jail time. Which I don't want to minimize this program in particular, because treatment is needed. It's part of the healing process for these individuals. So if we can offer it to them when we have them in our custody, then we absolutely should be doing that. So I think that pilot program, if it's effective, I think it could work. The second pilot program that was proposed is adding a new assistant city attorney to oversee these pilot programs. So they would also be in charge or tasked with looking at other programs that we currently have and determine their effectiveness. So again, if accountability can come out of this, it's a good thing. I'm just always going to be a little cautious of bureaucrats holding other bureaucrats accountable. So the third program, though, it would offer to create another position in the jail that would be responsible for helping offenders get connected to the services that they need or placed in a shelter, so they aren't thrown back into the streets right when they're released. And I think, again, if this one is done right, it could really help. A lot of times it can be frustrating for the offenders because they do need our help. They need the public's help in getting assistance. And if we want safety in our communities, it's in our best interest to make sure these services are provided. So the last program is the 60-bed 24/7 enhanced shelter. So this would allow people to get mental health and behavioral health treatment. These beds, however, would be voluntary. So even though they're serving time, we will give them the option on whether or not they want to get help in these enhanced shelters, which this one's a hard one for me. I kind of go back and forth on it because I have seen firsthand the effects that drugs can have on someone's life. And I bet most listening have as well. I have watched people really, really close to me lose their families. They have lost everything because of substance abuse. These were good people and at one time law-abiding citizens, and now they're struggling to stay alive. So again, I have a hard time with the idea that we have some of these people in custody, but we don't mandate them to get the help that they need to get their lives back together. I think it's doing them and their families a major disservice. So those are the pilot programs that she has rolled out. The University of Washington is supposed to be tasked with monitoring these programs to see if they're working or how effective that they are. So more of that will come down the road. It's going to take months to implement. And again, they're still going to need the approval by King County and Seattle City Council. So we'll keep an eye on it and give updates when they become available. So do I believe that this is going to fix the problem that we have right now? No, not really. But I do think it's a start. And it's at least showing us that steps are being taken in addressing some of these problems. The next part is up to you guys. It's up to the voters. Voters need to be responsible for who is elected to solve our city's problems. I can't go back to that enough. We have to get involved in this process and really look to see the candidates or the current members serving and decide on whether or not these people are equipped to solve these issues. Our elected officials, they're only as powerful as we allow them to be. And if they aren't representing our voices, then they need to answer for that on Election Day. They need to answer for that through your vote. It's time to take a break, but when we come back, we will be discussing some of the hot topics going on nationally. I have a guest here to help me break it all down, so stick around.
The following is a true story.
I had a lady that was in her mid-70s, and I'd sold her timeshare, and that was the lowest I'd ever felt in my life. I knew then that I had to do something to simply not to go to hell for selling timeshare.
Chuck McDowell founded Wesley Financial Group to help folks cancel their timeshares permanently.
Called her and everybody that I'd sold timeshare to, and I said, this is what I said to you that was a lie, and this is what you need to do to cancel your timeshare. From that point, people started referring friends to me to help them cancel a timeshare, and that's how it all started. I fought the world's largest timeshare company in federal court. If I had lost that lawsuit, there would be no one helping people that have been lied to when they bought timeshare. If we take you as a client, we will cancel your timeshare or we'll give your money back. That's what makes us different.
Call Wesley Financial Group now for a free information kit. 800-515-1771. That's 800-515-1771. 800-515-1771.
The following statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Amberen trials tested mild to moderate symptoms. Testimonials based on 90 days of use. Results may vary. IRI US and ULO 52 weeks 7-14-19 by UPC.
Hi, I'm Mary Lou Retton, and I want to talk to you about something I haven't liked to talk about until now, my menopause. All my life, I've had energy to win gold back in 1984. But when menopause hit me with the hot flashes and night sweats, I began to feel sluggish every day. That all changed when I discovered Amberen.
Amberen safely relieves 12 menopause symptoms by helping to restore your hormonal balance. Amberen is 100% drug-free and estrogen-free. Amberen is America's #1 menopause relief supplement in dollar sales.
Thanks to Amberen, my fear of hot flashes is gone. My sheets aren't soaked every night, and my energy is back. Give Amberen a try and see what it can do for you. It works. It really works.
Hurry to your Walmart, Walgreens, Target, and other fine retailers nationwide and get Amberen today.
Now, more of the Beth Cahill Show on AM 1590. The Answer.
So welcome back to the Beth Cahill Show. Thank you for joining us today. I have Clayton Kinder here with me. Clayton has a degree in political science. He has spent some time working on local campaigns with the RNC here in Washington State. And Clayton is a Gen Zer, so he should be able to give us a perspective of someone who is highly political, but a younger perspective as well. So I am excited to have him. Welcome, Clayton. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I want to talk about some of the Democratic candidates running for president and get your thoughts on some of these candidates. So I want to start with Biden. He's still the front runner, despite multiple gaffes that he's had on the campaign trail. But I almost feel bad even asking about Biden because I feel like he's taking it from everyone right now, including members of his own party. He continues to be the front runner, though, in every single poll, unless you were going to go state by state, and then you'll find some where he's getting beat by a Sanders or a Warren matchup. But overall, he's hovering somewhere around 30 to 32% nationally. I'm going to play a clip for you from the last Democratic debate in Houston where Joe was asked about race relations and slavery and what can be done now to make up for some of our past. I would love for you to respond. Here's his response when he was asked about that, and then I'll get your reaction after. Can we play the Biden clip?
Well, they have to deal with look, there is institutional segregation in this country. And from the time I got involved, I started dealing with that. Redlining, banks, making sure that we are in a position where, look, we talk about education. I propose that what we take is those very poor schools, the Title I schools, triple the amount of money we spend from $15 to $45 billion a year. Give every single teacher a raise to the equal raise of getting out the $60,000 level. Number two, make sure that we bring in to help the teachers deal with the problems that come from home. The problems that come from home, we have one school psychologist for every 1,500 kids in America today. It's crazy. The teachers are retired. I'm married to a teacher. My deceased wife is a teacher. They have every problem coming to them. We have to make sure that every single child does, in fact, have 3, 4, and 5-year-olds go to school, not daycare, school. We bring social workers into homes of parents to help them deal with how to raise their children. It's not that they don't want to help. They don't know quite what to do. Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone. Make sure the kids hear words.
So there's a lot with that clip. And, you know, I feel bad almost talking about this, but I think what he was trying to say was to get parents more involved and to get them more involved with their children's lives. But it was all over the place. You almost are like, wait, what is he responding to? Because I don't believe that's the question that was asked. So the question I'm going to throw off to you is, how can he continue down this road? I mean, last week he was in Vermont, and he was talking about how beautiful New Hampshire was, or vice versa. Like he had forgotten where he was for a moment. And there are so many of those. I mean, we could do an entire show on some of his or not speaking, I guess, if you will. So what do you think about that? How long can he sustain this?
Yeah, no, definitely. You could for sure do a show, a 90-minute show on Biden gaffes, but he has a lot bigger problems than just messaging.
Yeah.
I think you have to read between the lines of what he was saying in the clip you just played. He absolutely did help with redlining. That was a big problem. But he's like almost living in a different world.
Right.
Record players, I don't know how exactly that's going to play with young people. Is he into vinyl now?
Well, and I don't even think he meant to say record players. I don't even know what he was saying. But again, I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know what generation Joe Biden's living in, but it's certainly not 2019. His problems are definitely more focused on the fact that he doesn't resonate with young people at all.
Right.
His messaging isn't working. He can't play towards the radical left because Joe Biden's the same Joe Biden that he was 30 years ago.
Right, right. That'll be a problem for him in the general.
No, certainly. And his base is basically party loyalists.
Right.
He also does really well among minority voters.
Yeah, he's ahead of, he has the most significant support from black voters of any of the candidates. Sanders and Warren are behind him, but he has that voting bloc somewhat locked in at this moment.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that has a lot to do with the Obama coalition.
Yep.
Biden is the same ring as Obama.
But he's no Obama. That's the problem.
He isn't Obama, no, but he definitely has the support of the same communities that Obama had. But the minority community in the Democratic voting bloc can only get you so far. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know how he breaks that 30-something percent.
Right.
Which, in hindsight, you don't really need to break more than 30% to win the Democratic primary, just because it is based on a plurality of votes. It's not based on a majority. So he just needs to get more than his opponents to win. And since he does have that party loyalist base built in, if it's needed in the convention to get to a second ballot, the superdelegates will break it. So, and he'll get those. The
crazy thing though about Biden is that what was appealing to him is that he was supposed to be the most electable candidate, right? He's the guy. I mean, as Jill Biden, his wife, would say, I don't know if you don't have to love everything that he says or all of his policies, but he is the one that can beat Trump.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's the case or not. But he is supposed to be. That's what everyone keeps going back to. Biden's electability. I mean, it's all anyone talks about. But the problem is that I think that he was most electable when he stayed true to Joe Biden or to even Obama-era policies. And now it's like he can't race far enough to the left. And I don't know how well that does in a general for Joe Biden.
Well, polls still do show that he is the most electable candidate. And 97% of the Democratic Party believes that, or people that identify as a Democrat believe that the most important thing is to beat Trump no matter who the candidate is.
Yeah.
So it's still going to resonate with voters, and if they have a choice on who's more electable, they're gonna go that route.
Unless they stay home, because you have to also go back to enthusiasm. Is there a ton of enthusiasm? I mean, he's drawing maybe 100 people at his crowds.
Yeah.
Maybe 200. There was. So you have to go back to some of that stuff too, because yes, he might maintain some of this support, and yes, he might get the nomination, but do people stay home because he's not Obama? Do people stay home on election day?
I don't
that's
think the
something to think
Democrats
about.
stay home. I think that it might be the independents that could have been swayed to vote Democratic that won't have the enthusiasm, or first-generation voters that won't have enthusiasm for Joe Biden. So that's where Joe Biden's going to face issues into a general election. But the Democrats will show up for any candidate. The only subset of Democratic primary voters that might not go to the polls during a general will be the far left that don't really resonate with Joe Biden and feel like he's uncomfortable in his own skin, which all of us can see while he's on that debate stage. So I definitely agree with you that he can't race closer or run closer to the left wing part of the party.
Yeah, the thing is though, he also is flip-flopping a lot on issues that made him very relatable. So I don't know. I think there's a lot to go in on with Joe Biden. Again, I think that he probably will be their nominee, and then he's going to have to figure out a way. You know, does he appease the far left? Does he go to the center? What is it that Joe Biden does? So
yeah, no, for sure. And I think facing someone like Trump,
I feel like would. Sorry to cut you off, but I feel like Trump on a debate stage with Biden is disastrous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I also think though for Joe Biden the problem for him is going to be that the left of today wasn't the left of Obama.
Yeah.
So
I hate to cut you off. I'm going to have you back because there's so many things to go into. I want to talk about Andrew Yang. I want to talk about Warren. So can you come back next week and we can finish this?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
This has been The Beth Cahill Show. If you have any feedback for Beth or would like to suggest a future topic or guest for the show, email beth@thebethcahillshow.com. That's Beth at @thebethcahill, spelled CAHILL, show.com. Tune in again next Saturday morning at 9 for more of The Beth Cahill Show, right here on AM 1590. The Answer.